I am hopeful about AI. Hi, I'm Nick, former medical doctor, healed from lifelong asthma and suicidal depression, and now working as a soul doctor. And I want to share that I'm hopeful about AI. I've just started listening to Simone Grace, soul, and an AI writer, author, thinker about this, and I can really see it. I can see how I've forgotten that we've changed so much in the past few hundred years. We went from a society which really had to focus on subsistence, a focus on growing food, sustaining famines, all that stuff, to hunter-gatherers even before that, to growing our own food, to having supply and abundance, to wars, to office jobs, to pencil pushing, to data entry, to all this stuff, and then layers and layers and layers of management, middle management, micromanagement, massive management, macro management, consulting, and how it doesn't make sense, how I had to step into academia and then step out of it because it just didn't make sense. Since I've left in the past few years, I've unlearned, learned, and remembered more than I had in decades. And then I got to remember and be reminded how smart I was when I was young, how quickly I picked things up. There was a savant energy. And I think that there is a piece where, as the old systems get dismembered, we can step back into the savant energies that we are instead of trying to formalize, codify how learning is supposed to go, and that we're trying to program ourselves for jobs that no longer exist, and how we can go back to the things that cannot be replicated, the direct communication, the building up of trust that comes through repeated exposure and time. And that is the definition to me of family. Family are the people that we spend so much of our childhood with, good or bad, right or wrong. It is a defining aspect. There is a connection there. And biological parents or the caregivers or the siblings, there's such a connection there that can never be replicated. And that's why there's that whole line, you know, the only person that doesn't know Billy is just like his father is Billy, because we forget that we can't see it. And part of it with AI, with all this doomsday prediction, oh my God, it's the end of times, people lose their jobs. There is always a grain of truth to this. It's the end of these times. People are going to lose the jobs that we had before. But we forget what comes out of this, what comes out of the forest fire, what comes out of the winter is the next round of growth that we can't even predict because we haven't been there yet. It's that idea, I just read that quote, you know, was it Graham Bell was like, someday in the future, I predict that every town community will have maybe 2 phones. And it was just such a radical idea. And now it's like, who doesn't have a mobile phone? Who doesn't have 2 phones themselves, right? And this whole idea of electrification, of cars, of all these things, of having to redo roads, of railroads, of planes, it was just unfathomable before. This instant communication and this current misunderstanding of all these electromagnetic frequencies, of the sunshine, of all this stuff, of these beautiful old hospital structures, buildings that we had, of losing connection with all this old architecture. Some of it is going to come back because people are going to fall in love with different arts again, with the artistry of things. And then we're going to probably fall into a realm of deeper centralization first before we have to break out and going, this doesn't make any sense. If we just keep having an echo chamber, it doesn't work. And AI is going to think its way out of that as well. We're going to get better at programming it. But as we get better at programming it, we get better at noticing the programs that are running in our own heads. And that probably is a reflection. If anything, when we invented the personal computer, we talked about our mind as a personal computer. And then I realized when we invented cloud computing, I was like, oh, the mind is more like a cloud computer where we're actually accessing something that's far away and we're receiving it. And now with AI, oh, what if we're AI? We're actually just generating programs and then repeating programs and then having to realize, okay, how do I go back to the creation of programs phase? Realizing that I'm the creator of the AIs that I am as well. And why hopeful? Well, we could go for hope or we could go for fear and contraction. I choose to step into hope. And sometimes I do go to fear and contraction because I don't know how to better engage this. I don't want to relearn, rethink sometimes. But then how do I explore? How do I come from a child aspect? How do I come from a kid aspect? How do I come from unlearning? How do I come from remembering? How do I come from this place where I can actually notice my tendencies to exploit and extract and try to grab as much as I can and then let that go as well? How do I notice how I'm getting sucked into different narratives as well? And how do I engage others to notice these things as well? And part of it is, as I'm hopeful, I'm also hopeful because the work I do helps to awaken people to their intuition. And if they can awaken their intuition and leverage it, how much quicker can that intuition turn into real world change? And that's part of it. It's the same idea of the concentrations of wealth can enable faster and faster change in some ways if and when the people that have the wealth are looking towards that. So take a look at where you're hopeful, where you're unhopeful for AI. Take a look at where things feel like they're getting stuck. Take a look at how your own mental models are changing. Take a look and also take a step back. I'm also so hopeful because I take a lot of time away from technology. The phone's on airplane mode, it's off. The rest is happening. The writing is happening. Being in nature is happening. Being with family is happening. Being with close loved ones is happening. Being with eating delicious foods is happening. All right, ciao for now.